The palace of the alien queen was a place where fear lived in every corner. Servants walked with quiet steps, always looking at the floor, as if the stones themselves were watching them. The queen ruled with anger and cold eyes, and no one knew when she would strike. Every week someone disappeared, and the others said nothing, because speaking was dangerous, asking questions was deadly. The queen wanted silence, and silence was all she allowed. Daniel, the human janitor, arrived in this place without knowing the truth. He thought he was here only to work, to clean floors and empty waste units. He had no power, no friends, and no voice. Humans were rare here, brought from far planets for low jobs. The aliens looked at him with pity, not because he was weak, but because they believed he would not live long under the queen's rule. Daniel tried to stay small and quiet. He thought if he avoided trouble, trouble would avoid him. But trouble in this palace searched for everyone, even the ones who wanted to disappear. On his first day, he saw the way the aliens' hands shook when the queen walked by. They bowed so fast their backs hurt. Some even cried in fear when she left. Daniel did not understand why everyone feared her so deeply. He had never seen a ruler like this. One night, he understood. The queen entered the grand hall, tall and silent like a shadow. A servant stood near her throne, holding a tray of rare crystals. The servant trembled, and one crystal slipped from his hands. It fell to the floor and broke. The sound echoed in the hall, sharp and cold. The servant froze. The queen did not shout. She did not warn. She simply raised her hand, and a beam of bright energy shot from her fingers. The crystal dust rose into the air, and the servant fell. Without a sound. Daniel was cleaning in the corner, half hidden behind a tall pillar. He felt his heart stop when he saw the servant fall. He gasped, not loud, but loud enough for someone with sharp ears. The queen turned her head slowly. Her eyes searched the room like a predator smelling blood. Her gaze found him. Daniel's breath caught in his throat. The queen did not speak. She only smiled, and the smile was worse than her anger. It was a smile that said she could end him anytime she chose. She took one step toward him, but then stopped. She tilted her head as if trying to understand him. Why had she never noticed the human before? Why was he watching her with eyes that did not collapse into fear like the others? Daniel lowered his head fast, pretending to be terrified, pretending to be like the others. But inside, something different was growing. He hated what he had seen, and hate was dangerous here. Hate was the kind of fire that made people act brave, and the brave died first in this palace. When Daniel returned to his small room, his hands were shaking. He wanted to forget what he saw, but his mind kept replaying the moment. How easily the queen ended a life, how everyone accepted it, as if death was part of their daily work. Daniel whispered to himself that he must stay invisible. He must not look into her eyes again. He must not let her remember him. But deep inside, he knew she had already remembered. The next morning, Daniel went to clean the throne room. He hoped the queen would not appear. But hope was not a friend in this place. She entered the room with quiet steps, like a knife cutting through the air. Daniel kept working, trying to make himself small. The queen watched him without speaking. Her eyes followed his every move. He felt her gaze like fire on his back. Then she dropped a glass on purpose. The sound broke the silence. The pieces scattered near Daniel's feet. Every servant would know this was a test. If he cleaned it too slow, she might kill him. If he cleaned it too fast, she might think he was afraid. If he cut himself on the shards, she might laugh before ending him. Daniel knelt and began cleaning slowly. His hands were steady, but his heart was racing. The queen stepped closer, so close he could hear her breath. The room felt colder with every step she took. She wanted to see fear. She wanted him to break. But Daniel did not break. He worked with calm movements, wiping the floor until it shined. The queen leaned in as if she wanted to smell his fear, but she found something else instead, something she did not expect, something she did not like. Daniel did not fear her the way others did, not fully. He was afraid, yes, but inside he held something that annoyed her, a quiet strength. She did not understand it, and what she did not understand made her angry. She stepped back and studied him like an animal she could not predict. Her eyes narrowed, and in that moment Daniel knew one terrible truth. She was interested in him now. An interest from the queen was deadly. From that day, the queen watched him more closely. Guards noticed it. Servants whispered about it. Some even avoided walking near him, afraid the queen might kill everyone standing beside him. Daniel felt the air tighten around him. His days became longer. His nights became sleepless. He did not know it yet, but the queen had chosen him, not for death, but for something worse, something she had never done with any servant before, something that would change both their fates forever. The story had only begun, and danger was waking all around him, and Daniel, the simple human janitor, was about to shake an empire without even trying. Daniel tried to work quietly the next day, but silence no longer protected him. Everywhere he went, he felt eyes on him. The guards watched him with confusion, wondering why the queen, who feared no one, had suddenly become interested in a simple human janitor. They whispered behind their helmets, asking each other if the Queen was planning some new test, or if she simply enjoyed making prey nervous. But Daniel was not only nervous, he was tired from thinking too much. Every moment he tried to understand why she had not killed him on the spot, why she kept watching him like a puzzle she wanted to solve. It made no sense. The Queen destroyed anything that annoyed her, and Daniel knew he annoyed her more than anyone else. Late in the afternoon, Daniel cleaned the upper galleries, a quiet place where servants rarely walked. The long windows looked out over the alien landscape, full of glowing forests and floating rocks. It should have been peaceful, but the peace broke when he heard the sound of slow footsteps behind him. He did not have to turn around to know who it was. The Queen stood near the doorway, her tall figure blocking the light. She did not speak, she only observed. Her presence made the air heavier. Daniel pretended to keep working, but she walked closer, her shadow stretched over him like a dark net. She asked him why he had not run away the night she killed the servant. Her voice was low and cold. Daniel did not know how to answer. He said he froze because he did not understand what to do. She stared at him for a long time, almost as if she could see inside his thoughts. Her eyes were sharp and bright, like two blades. Then she did something strange. She ordered him to walk with her. No servant had ever been given such a command. Servants knelt, bowed, and stayed far away, but Daniel followed her through twisting hallways, surprised he was still alive. The Queen led him into a silent chamber filled with old symbols carved into the walls. Daniel felt something strange in this room, a pressure in the air. The Queen told him that this was the ancient heart of the palace, a place only rulers were allowed to enter. She waited for him to be impressed, but instead, she saw curiosity in his eyes. Curiosity in a servant was dangerous. Curiosity in a human was even worse. She asked him if he feared her. Daniel's heart beat fast, but he forced himself to speak. He said yes, but he also said he feared watching innocent people die even more. The Queen's expression softened for a second, only a second, then anger returned like a flash of lightning. She stepped so close he could feel the heat of her skin. She asked him who he thought he was, a tiny human who dared to question her rule. Daniel lowered his eyes, but the Queen saw something again in him that she could not accept. He had a quiet strength that felt wrong to her. He should have been shaking, crying, begging, but he was standing, breathing steady. She touched his chin with one sharp, cold finger and lifted his face toward hers. She wanted to see fear, but she saw something else, something that made her step back. He had a stubborn spark, a flame she could not crush. She hated it, but she was drawn to it. Guards came rushing in at that moment. They said there was a disturbance in the lower wings. The Queen turned away, but before leaving, she gave Daniel a long, unreadable look, a look that felt like a warning and a promise at the same time. Daniel returned to his cleaning, but his thoughts were heavy. Something in that ancient chamber had changed him. He felt like he had stepped into something larger than himself, something dangerous. He wanted to stay invisible, but the Queen had already seen him, and she could not unsee him now. Later that night, Daniel walked through the back corridors, carrying his tools. The lights flickered, the air hummed, and he felt like he was being watched from every shadow. Suddenly, he heard faint crying from behind a metal door. He pressed his ear to it and felt his chest tighten. Inside were servants locked away, punished for small mistakes. He whispered to them, asking if they were hurt. No one answered, but he heard breathing, weak and cold. He knew the Queen did not allow anyone to help them, but Daniel could not ignore it. He promised himself he would return. He would do something, even if it put him in danger. As he stepped away from the door, something sharp clicked above him. A surveillance orb unfolded from the ceiling, its red eye staring directly at him. Daniel froze. The Queen would know he had been here. She would know he had heard the cries. He walked away slowly, trying not to show fear. But inside, he felt the walls closing in. When he reached his room, he leaned against the door, breathing fast. The Queen was unpredictable, powerful, and merciless. He could not fight her. He could not run from her. But he also could not watch more innocent people suffer. For the first time since arriving in the palace, Daniel felt a dangerous idea growing inside him. An idea that could destroy him, or save many others. But he did not know which outcome waited for him. And far away, in her high chamber, the Queen stood alone, watching the security recording of him standing outside the prisoner's door. Her eyes narrowed, her claws tapped slowly on the throne. For the first time in years, she felt something strange. A threat. From a human janitor. Daniel woke early the next day, though he had barely slept. His mind kept replaying the cries he had heard behind the locked metal door, the faces he could not see, the fear he could not ignore. He tried to tell himself to stop caring, to stay alive by staying quiet, but something inside him refused to return to silence. Something had awakened the moment the Queen noticed him, and now it would not sleep again. The palace felt different that morning, colder, sharper, As if every wall knew what he had done, servants moved quickly with their heads down, avoiding eye contact. Daniel wondered if they sensed trouble building around him. They did not speak, but their eyes said everything. Stay away, danger follows you. While cleaning the upper halls, Daniel felt vibrations through the floor, heavy footsteps coming closer. He did not turn, but he knew it was one of the elite guards, a tall armored creature with glowing red joints. The guard ordered Daniel to follow, but said nothing else. Daniel felt cold inside his chest as he walked. He did not ask where they were going, he knew better than that. The guard led him to a dark chamber hidden behind two sliding stone doors. Daniel had never been inside this room before. The air felt heavy, almost alive. Strange machines circled the walls, humming softly like tired animals breathing. In the center of the room stood the queen, tall and silent, her long cloak draped across the ground like a living shadow. Daniel forced himself to bow slightly, not too much, not too little. The queen watched him with unreadable eyes. Her voice echoed like metal when she spoke. She said she had seen him wandering the lower wings. She asked him why he was near the prisoner cells at night. Daniel felt sweat run down his back. He tried to answer carefully, saying he was lost while searching for a maintenance hatch. The queen walked around him slowly, circling like a creature deciding whether to kill or study. She told him humans were not allowed in those areas. She told him lies were punished, but she could not tell if he was lying. That annoyed her. She could always smell fear, but Daniel's fear was mixed with something strange, something she had not felt from anyone in a long time. She stepped closer, her breath cold on his face. She said she could break him in half, crush him, erase him like dust. She asked if he understood. Daniel nodded, but inside something pushed back against the fear, something deep and stubborn. The queen stared into his eyes, searching for the moment he would break, but he did not break. His hands shook, but his gaze stayed steady, somehow steady. The queen felt something she had not felt in centuries, a small crack in her confidence, a question forming inside her. What made this human stand like this? She ordered the guard to leave, and suddenly Daniel was alone with her. The lights dimmed, the machines hummed louder. She walked toward a strange device in the corner, a long arch made of black metal. She told him this was the memory gate, a device that allowed rulers to see the true hearts of their servants. She said she had used it only twice before, and both times ended in death. Daniel felt his pulse quicken. The queen commanded him to step inside. He wanted to refuse, but refusal meant instant execution. He walked into the arch, feeling the metal vibrate under his hands. The machine's energy wrapped around him like cold smoke. Images flashed in front of him, memories rising out of his mind. Earth's blue sky, a small apartment, a laugh he once knew, a life he thought he would never see again. Then the machine dug deeper, showing his fear, his anger, his quiet strength, the part of him that refused to accept cruelty. The queen watched everything, her face unreadable. When the machine shut down, Daniel fell to one knee, exhausted. The queen stepped forward slowly. She told him she finally understood what made him different. He was afraid, yes, but his fear did not control him. He controlled it, and that made him unpredictable. She said unpredictable beings were dangerous, and the danger of a human was something she had never considered before. She touched his shoulder, cold as ice, and said he would not be killed. Not yet. She wanted to watch him longer, study him more, see what he would do next. Daniel felt a chill run through him. He realized something terrifying. The queen did not want to destroy him. She wanted to keep him close, and that was far worse than death. When Daniel left the chamber, he felt the eyes of every guard watching him, some with fear, others with curiosity. They had never seen anyone come out of the memory gate alive. The whispers followed him like shadows as he walked. That night, Daniel returned to the prisoner door, but he did not go near it. He stood far back in the dark hallway and stared at it. He knew the queen was testing him, watching him, waiting to see his next move. But he also knew something else. The cries from behind that door would not stop on their own. Someone had to act. Someone had to break the cycle, and Daniel feared that someone might be him. Far above him, in a tall window of the palace tower, the queen watched him again, her eyes glowing through the darkness, a small smile forming on her lips, as if she enjoyed the idea of a human walking a path he could not survive. The palace breathed around him, the shadows felt alive, and Daniel realized the truth he could no longer deny. He was trapped in a game he never asked to play. And the queen was not done with him, not even close. Daniel woke the next morning with a strange heaviness in his chest. As he stood up from his small metal bed, he felt as if the palace itself was watching him breathe. The walls hummed quietly, the lights flickered, and every corner felt sharper than before. It was like the entire place had learned his name. When he stepped into the hall, the servants stepped back, giving him space they never gave anyone. Their eyes were wide, some filled with fear, others filled with disbelief. No one walked near a servant who had entered the memory gate and lived. Some whispered he was the Queen's new experiment, others whispered he was marked for something worse. Daniel tried to ignore them, but their fear followed him like a shadow. He wondered if he should feel proud to be alive. But he did not. He felt trapped. The Queen kept him alive not because she cared, but because she was curious, and her curiosity was a knife pointed at his throat. While he cleaned the crystal floor of the great hall, he heard a voice behind him, not loud, but quiet and shaking. An alien servant approached him, looking around to make sure no guards watched. The servant whispered that the Queen had increased security in the lower wings. The prisoner cells now had double guards, new locks, and scanning drones. The Queen feared trouble, and she was preparing to crush it. Daniel felt a cold twist inside his stomach. She knew he cared about the prisoners. She knew he might return. She was waiting for him to make a mistake. Hours passed slowly, but danger moved quickly. As Daniel walked to the storage chambers, he found a guard blocking the hallway, a guard taller than the rest, with bright blue armor that reflected the dim palace lights. The guard spoke with a deep metallic voice, saying the Queen wanted him in the North Tower. Daniel followed, each step echoing too loudly. The tower was silent, colder than the rest of the palace, as if no one had walked there for years. When he entered the top room, he saw something that made him stop breathing. The Queen stood beside a long glass window, and behind her, floating inside special containers, were glowing shapes, pulsing like hearts. She told him these were the life extracts, the energy taken from the servant she had killed. Each glowing shape was a life she had taken, a life she controlled. Daniel felt sick. The Queen said power must be fed, and rulers must never show weakness. She asked if he understood. He did not answer, because his mind was spinning. Each glowing shape was a person, someone who had begged, someone who had cried, someone who had simply made a small mistake, and now the Queen kept their life energy like trophies. The Queen turned toward him slowly, saying she had been thinking about him. She said humans were strange, soft but strong, weak but stubborn. She wanted to test him further, see how far his spirit could bend before breaking. Daniel forced himself to stay calm, even though his heart pounded like a drum in his chest. She asked him what he feared most. Daniel stayed quiet, hoping silence would protect him. But she stepped closer, her eyes glowing brighter. She said she already knew his fear. He feared watching others suffer more than he feared dying himself. She said this weakness made him dangerous. Daniel felt anger rise inside him, but he hid it. The Queen lifted a glowing life extract and held it between them. She asked him if he wanted to save the prisoners he heard crying. Her voice was cold and almost amused. She asked if he would trade his own life for theirs. Daniel's breath trembled, but he stayed silent. The Queen placed the glowing extract back into the air and walked toward the window. She said she enjoyed watching him struggle with choices. She said humans were most interesting when they were breaking. She ordered him to leave, but as Daniel turned, the Queen spoke again, saying something that chilled him to the bone. She said if he ever stepped near the prisoner cells again, she would end every life inside them, not because she needed to, but because she wanted to see the look on his face. Daniel walked down the tower steps with shaking legs. His hands were cold, his breaths were sharp. He knew now that he was the reason those prisoners might die. If he moved wrong, if he acted too soon, if he tried to help them, the Queen would punish them for his courage. But doing nothing felt worse. Doing nothing felt like helping her. As Daniel approached the lower hallways, he felt a faint vibration under his feet, a soft sound, almost like a heartbeat. He followed it unintentionally, walking deeper into the forbidden areas. No guards were around, no drones hovered. The silence felt unnatural. He reached a small door, different from the prisoner door. A thin blue light glowed under it. Daniel hesitated, but something inside pulled him forward. He opened the door slowly, and for a moment, he could not breathe. The room inside was old, forgotten, filled with broken machines and dusty writings. But in the center of the room was something glowing softly, something alive, something pulsing with the same energy he had seen inside the Queen's life extracts. But this one was different, softer, weaker, almost dying. Daniel stepped closer, feeling the air warm around it. He reached out a hand, but before he could touch it, the light shivered, as if sensing him. He did not know what it was, but he felt something strange, something powerful, something terrifying. He had found the first piece of the Queen's secret, and the Queen would kill him if she knew. Daniel stood in the strange forgotten room, his eyes fixed on the soft glowing shape in the center. The glow was weaker than the life extracts he had seen in the Queen's tower. It flickered like a small candle fighting against darkness. The room felt alive, breathing with slow, tired air. Dust moved in the light as if pulled toward it. Daniel stepped closer, unsure if he was walking toward danger or hope. When he reached the glowing shape, something unexpected happened. The light pulsed gently, like it could sense him. Daniel felt a warm rush through his fingertips, a warm feeling he had not felt since Earth. It was as if someone had touched his hand, someone kind, someone alive. Daniel pulled back in shock. This was not just energy, this felt like a heartbeat, a soul. He whispered to himself, asking what this thing was, but a voice behind him answered, a quiet voice filled with fear. Daniel turned fast and saw a small alien servant hiding behind a broken machine. The servant's eyes were wide, trembling. Daniel recognized him as one of the workers from the lower wings. The alien whispered that the glowing form was the original core, the first energy of the palace, older than the Queen, older than the Empire itself. The servant said the Queen never told anyone about it because she feared it. The original core kept the palace alive, and without it, the Queen would lose half her power. Daniel felt the weight of this knowledge settle into his bones. The Queen had built her strength from stolen lives, but this core was not stolen. This core was natural, ancient, pure. The servant stepped closer and said something even more shocking. This core was dying. Its light faded more every day. The Queen refused to repair it, because she believed replacing it with stolen life extracts made her stronger. The servant said that if the core died completely, the palace would weaken, the Queen would weaken, maybe even fall. For the first time since arriving, Daniel felt a spark of real hope. It was small, dangerous, but real. He asked the servant why he was telling him all this. The alien whispered that he had seen Daniel look at the prisoner doors with pain in his eyes. He said no servant had looked at those doors with compassion for years. The servant believed Daniel could change something, even if he did not know how. Before Daniel could ask anything else, an alarm suddenly echoed through the hallway outside, a deep metallic sound that shook the forgotten room. The servant panicked and hid again. Daniel froze, listening. The alarm meant only one thing. Someone had entered a restricted area, someone had opened a forbidden door, and the Queen always knew. Footsteps thundered toward the room. Daniel's heart raced. He looked for a hiding place, but the room had no shadows deep enough to protect him. The door slid open with a sharp hiss, and two elite guards stepped inside. Their eyes glowed red when they saw him. One guard grabbed his arm, the other pointed a sharp weapon at his chest. Daniel tried to explain, but they did not care. They dragged him out into the hallway, the alarm echoing behind them. As they pulled him through the palace, servants watched from a distance, whispering. Some looked afraid for him, others afraid of him. The guards took him to the high tower where the Queen stood, waiting. She watched him with calm, cold eyes, her long claws tapping lightly on the throne. Daniel felt a crushing pressure in his chest as he was forced to kneel before her. The Queen asked him what he was doing in the forgotten room. Her voice was calm, too calm, like a storm preparing to break. Daniel said he was lost, but she already knew this was a lie. She had felt the core react. She had felt the shift in energy. She told him the core was forbidden for a reason. She said it was dangerous to those who were weak. Daniel realized she was watching him again, searching for cracks, searching for fear. Then she asked him something strange. She asked if the core spoke to him. Daniel paused, not knowing what she meant. The Queen stepped closer and whispered that the core sometimes responded to spirits that were strong, spirits that were stubborn, spirits that refused to bow. She looked into Daniel's eyes with a mix of curiosity and hate. She said the core reacting to a human was impossible, but her voice shook slightly, as if a tiny part of her feared it was possible. Daniel saw something new in her eyes, something dangerous. She feared the core, she feared losing power, she feared anything she could not control. The Queen raised her claw slowly, ready to strike, but something unexpected happened. The palace lights flickered, dimming and brightening again. The floor trembled, a soft vibration moving through the stones. The core was responding again, stronger than before. The Queen turned sharply, anger flashing in her eyes. She could not understand why the core was acting alive again. Guards stepped forward, unsure of what to do. Daniel felt the vibration pass through him like a soft pulse. He looked at the Queen, and for the first time, he saw fear in her eyes, a real, small, trembling fear. The Queen shouted for the guards to take him away, lock him in the deepest cell, never let him step near the core again. As they dragged him toward the dungeon, Daniel realized something important, something powerful. The Queen had many enemies, but the core was her greatest threat, and somehow, for a reason he did not yet understand, the core had reacted to him. Daniel felt the walls shake again as he was pulled deeper into the palace. The core was waking up, and the Queen was losing control, and Daniel, a simple human janitor, was now at the center of a war he had not started, but might be the only one able to finish. The darkness of the dungeon swallowed him whole. But something inside him refused to dim. A single spark, a quiet strength, still burning in the dark. And the palace felt it. And the Queen felt it too.